What's up, everybody? It is Izzy back in biceps today, and I am back in bicep for the first question of the day. Why should I stay natural? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Reason number one, steroids carry immense potential for harm, especially when people don't know what they're doing. For example, let's say somebody was considering cycling off of steroids, and on their first cycle, they're considering doing 500 mgs of Sustanon a week. Now, why would that be idiotic? It would be idiotic because Sustanon contains test U, which, for those who don't know, is essentially the same as the product Nebido, where it has a half-life of 8 to 12 weeks. It was invented so that people could go to the doctor, get a shot, and not have to come back more than once every quarter. Okay? So if you're planning to cycle off and restart your own natural production, why would you ever use a testosterone formulation that contains something that has a half-life of 8 to 12 weeks? That makes no sense whatsoever. Even for those who are very experienced and know what they're doing, the risk for harm is still high. Steroids in supraphysiological doses are toxic to the kidneys, the liver, the heart, and the brain. And that is downside number two to steroids: the health monitoring and health product expenses. You're going to want to get blood work if you're going to be responsible about it 3 to 4 times a year. And each one of those, depending on the quality of the blood work and the extensiveness of the tests, is going to run you anywhere from $120 to $250 per test. Once every 2 years or so, you should also consider getting a full echocardiogram done. And most of the time, insurance will not pay for this because you are doing it it's an elective choice, right? The doctors aren't saying, hey, you need an echocardiogram. On top of that, there are things you can do to mitigate some of the toxicity, like, if necessary, blood pressure medication or blood pressure supplements, if necessary, cholesterol medication or cholesterol supplements for heart health. If you neglect to do this health monitoring and to take the various supplements or pharmaceuticals that you need, to the ancillary pharmaceuticals that keep your health in check, you could unwittingly take years and years off of your life. There are bodybuilders who abuse steroids that die in their 40s and 50s every single year. Unfortunately, there's even some guys dying in their 30s these days. Not only that, even if you do all of this health monitoring, there is individual variation in terms of the response to steroids. There are people that have claimed to have lost their ability to have kids for life. There are people who have done one cycle and have never been able to restore their natural production. And there are people who only do a handful of cycles at moderate doses that increase their risk of a heart attack for the rest of their life and vastly increase the amount of plaque in their arteries. The potential for harm is immense. And you can reduce it by spending a lot of money, but that's the next problem is, do you have a lot of money? The health monitoring and health supplement and health pharmaceutical products alone can run you several $100s per month. Now, if you add in the actual cost of the gear itself, the actual performance-enhancing drugs, you need to budget several $1,000s per year to do this correctly, depending on how much of what you're using and the quality of your sources, whether you're getting underground stuff or you're sourcing pharmaceutical grade things. You could be looking at anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 or way more, depending on what kind of HGH you get if you're using HGH. So most dudes in their 20s don't have that kind of money, and what do they skimp on? The health monitoring, which is a terrible idea for all the reasons that I just mentioned. Next, steroids are illegal. So you risk literally going to prison by having this particular hobby, okay? You also will need to deal with drug dealers. You'll have to do that in person or online. Both open you for the opportunity to be scammed. You're gonna have to learn how to do stuff like Bitcoin if you do go online. And more than that, the more inconvenient is that you're gonna have to plan your vacations and your travel schedule around this because it's too risky to bring things through airports. So you're going to need to have the products that you need when you're on vacation, and you're going to have to source products in that location and have it mailed to your hotel, for example. You're going to have to figure out all these different ways of literally smuggling and acquiring products while you're traveling. Last but not least, what are you really doing all of this for? Are you ever going to get paid from it? Are you seeking employment in the fitness industry? Are you going to be a professional bodybuilder? Because if not, then what you're going to be doing is sinking thousands of dollars per year for a cosmetic effect on your hobby. And again, what are you really getting out of this? You're risking dying sooner. You're risking infertility. You're risking needing TRT for life. And again, a lot of guys have some sort of weird notion that going on steroids is going to help them get laid. It's literally going to do the opposite in most cases for a variety of reasons. One, ED is one of the most common side effects of steroids. Well, that can be managed. There's individual responses to things. That can be from estrogen too high, estrogen too low, prolactin too high. There's any number of causes, and it's one of the most common side effects. Another really common side effect, acne, including cystic acne that leaves permanent scars. And how about aging of the face? Androgens age the face and increase the rate at which you wrinkle, and they change the shape of your skull. Let's just be honest, man. The vast majority of women don't like bloated, moon-faced dudes with unnaturally large muscles. The only women that are into that are also bodybuilders, are also enhanced powerlifters. That's pretty much most of the group that likes that. So again, like what are you doing this for? What are you doing this for? Unless you're the kind of person that's so sure about this, that all the things that I just said you're willing to deal with because you know that's like your life's purpose. That is what you want to go after. You are going to spend your life focused on bodybuilding, on powerlifting, on strength culture. You have no doubt whatsoever. That is what you want. The better question is, why would you do steroids? What is any sensible reason that makes any good sense for the average person who's not seeking employment in the fitness industry, who's not going to make a living in the fitness industry? Because it seems fun, it's not fun. All right, let's actually give some advice here too. So this potential first cycle of 500 milligrams of Sustanon and a bit of Anavar for 12 weeks. What's wrong with it? Let's start with the obvious. The Anavar doesn't need to be in there at all. Having an oral Kickstarter is completely unnecessary. It's just sort of like an old forum thing that's been around for a long time. People still recommend it. It's not adding anything that you need on a first cycle. There's no point in throwing orals in there just to go on a cycle. I mean, that's a contest prep situation only, in my opinion. As far as harm reduction goes, you don't need to do orals ever in the off season. So there's that. 2, the Sustanon obviously needs to be changed out for a shorter ester, cypionate or test E, something of that nature, or even shorter. And the reason for that is you don't want something hanging in your system for a long time, preventing your natural HPT axis from restarting. Lastly, 500 milligrams is way too high, 2 to 3 milligrams per kilo of body weight. So if you weigh 220, that's 300 milligrams for your first cycle. Last but not least, as far as what to expect when you come off cycle and you're in PCT, PCT drugs wreak havoc on a lot of people. I mean, it's impossible to tell you what's going to happen. Some people don't notice much, and some people have full-blown roller coasters of emotions because you're taking things that modulate estrogen, you're taking things that modulate androgen receptors, you're blasting things in that cause a surge of production in various hormones right when you take it. It's very unpredictable. Some people take it much harder than others. Personally, I don't see the point in cycling on and off if this is something that you're sure that you want to do. In the literature, on average, it takes 7 cycles before someone needs TRT for life. Very charitably, if you are doing 2 cycles a year, that's 3 months on, 3 months off, right? Most people can't even fit in that much. That's 3.5 years before you're done and you need TRT for life anyway. Nobody accomplishes all that much in only 3 to 4 years of being enhanced. That's where I'm at right now, and I don't even look like a bodybuilder yet. So the other delusional thing that people sometimes say is that, oh, I'm only going to do 1 or 2 cycles, get to my natural limit, and then stop. Like, sure you are. But let's even say that's the case. You're going to lose every single ounce of super physiological muscle that you gained, and you're going to lose muscle that your training, diet, and recovery habits cannot maintain as well. So really, like, when you decide that you're going to go down the enhanced route, in my opinion, you're making a commitment to do it for life. If you're planning to come off and do PCTs and make sure that you can maintain your fertility and make sure that, you can restart your natural levels, I just don't think you're thinking about this the right way. Why are you doing 3 curling variations in a row? Well, Self, I'm so glad you asked this question. So the first curling variation that I did there was a wide grip supinated curl. And the reason why I did a wide grip was to force myself into external rotation, which is going to bias the long head of the biceps more. The second variation that I did was reverse curls, and obviously reverse curls are going to bias the forearms a bit, the brachioradialis. And it also gives me a break for the third variation that I'm doing here, which is, it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm doing a super close grip hammer curl, which will bias the brachialis as well as the biceps short head. So even though all of these variations train all the same muscles, Doing it this way allows me to break up my 10 to 11 sets of curls that I did into volume that biases every single muscle in that arm complex to train all of them maximally. Is doing seated calf raises a must for hypertrophy? Nothing is a fucking must for hypertrophy, dude. You don't even have to train muscles that you don't like to train. And honestly, calves are barely judged in bodybuilding. There's people with tier calves compared to the rest of their physique that still place really well. But no, it's not necessary because the calf is roughly made up of two major muscles. Okay, one is the gastrocnemius. That's like the diamond-shaped muscle that's on the outside that you can see. And the soleus is more of almost like it's almost like a steak muscle that sits underneath the gastroc and extends down the calf as well. When you do calf raises with a bent knee, you disadvantage the gastrocnemius because it also crosses the knee joint. And it's basically placed into a position of active insufficiency. And that means that in a seated calf raise variation, the soleus has to do the majority of the work. You don't have to train your soleus directly at all. Is it feasible to be lean and have a BMI over 30? Would it still be healthy? It's not super realistic, man. It's possible, but probably not for you. I mean, think about it like this way. At my height, 5'7", a BMI of 30 is 192 pounds. If we consider lean as 15% body fat, that would give you an FFMI, fat-free mass index, of 26. Anything over 25 is a very high likelihood that the person is using performance-enhancing drugs. If we take that to something truly legitimately lean, like 12% body fat, okay, now you're looking at an FFMI of 27. If we drop that into like legit lean, sub 10%, like a 9% body fat, you're talking about an FMI of 28, which I don't think has ever actually been recorded in a lean person who is natural. So it's definitely possible, but it's possible for dudes like Russell Orhe. It's not just like possible for like a random person who decides to start lifting. No way. That's really hard to do. I am 170 centimeters tall. That's about 5'8". I have never had a problem with it until recently when girls started mentioning it. How do I overcome this? You make it sound like it's a fucking disability, dude. Like, do you need to fuck every single woman in the world to make your ego feel all right? Do you need every single woman to be a potential partner for you? Really? The ugly truth about this, man, is that some women just have rules about things. Some women don't date guys under 6 feet tall. Some women don't date guys who make less than 6 figures. Some women don't date guys that aren't Christian. Some women don't date guys that don't root for the Patriots. Like, there's certainly at least one girl out there that likes your combination of traits. Think about it like this, man. If some woman is going to next you over something as trivial and shallow as your height, you're just dodging a bullet anyway. Do you really want to get into a long-term relationship with somebody whose primary value in life is like your sexual market value based on your height and your looks? Probably not. I mean, just find someone else, man. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of women in your city, whatever city it is, assuming it's not like some hick little town. Some of them will like you. You don't need to be an option for all of them. This isn't something that you have to get over. Just like move on to the next one. Plenty of fish in the sea and all that. What's worse, living a partying lifestyle where you drink every day, or living a healthy lifestyle where you do PEDs? Who cares, man? This is like a dishonest game to play anyway. This is like when fucking alcoholics try to fat shame people, and I just like laugh at them because you're trying to like you both have your fucking face in a pile of shit, and you're trying to figure out whose shit stinks worse. But you both have shit in your face, so who really cares? In this exact example, it's going to come down to who's doing like more of what. Like, are you drinking every day and having 2 or 3 drinks, or is somebody literally getting blackout drunk every single day? Because that is a one-way ticket to physical dependence on alcohol. Like showing up to the party with your very own fifth. That's about as bad as it gets, right? On the other hand, doing PEDs can be kept very manageable. Like, it can be kept like under a gram of total anabolics. Or you could also have some who's doing 5 to 10 grams a week and never cycles off. So it all depends on the exact detail. Where do dumbbell rows rank on the hierarchy of rows? I think they're probably my favorite free weight row because they're so versatile. Like, you could do them from a dead stop. You can do them unilaterally, which allows you to get more of a lat focus if that's what you want to do. You don't move them directly against gravity as much, so you can get a little bit of a short drop off depending on how you position your torso. You can do them chest supported because the dumbbells obviously can pull around the bench in both directions. They're much easier to do full range of motion with because there's no barbell to hit your chest. There's no machine handle to hit your chest. I really like dumbbell rows. You can get that full protraction at the bottom without standing on a plate to have a deficit. I think dumbbell rows are probably my top free weight row option. But for me personally, nothing is going to beat a lengthened bias row or a lengthened bias pull down. And virtually every single free weight option for both of those is heavily short biased. So if you don't have access to adjustable strength curve equipment, the best you can do is to go do cable pullovers and set them up in such a way where they're lengthened biased. Otherwise, you just have nothing that's training the lats or the upper back with a lengthened bias. It's all short, all of it. And it just feels so much better when it's lengthened bias, trust me. Are you still picking Nikola Jokic for MVP? Nobody else should even be in the conversation. He's averaging a triple-double and 63% from the field. He's basically Russell Westbrook with prime Shaquille O'Neal efficiency. The only reason that anybody is talking about Joel Embiid as being a candidate for MVP is because of voter fatigue and because of things that people like head-to-head matchup results. The Nuggets are the number one seed in the West. The dude is about to be the first center to average a triple-double, and he's doing it on 63% shooting. MVP. I am a powerlifter. I'm 2 kilos under my weight class. Would you recommend off-season bulking or peaking? Kind of a weird question. I think your grammar is throwing me off here a bit. But if you're 2 kilos under your weight cap, then during your next off season, I would definitely recommend bulking and getting that to more like 1 to 3 kilos over the weight cap, assuming a 2-hour weigh-in. If you have a longer weigh-in than that, you should go way over. You can peak if you have a meet coming up that you want to do. That's totally fine. Just whenever your next off season is, I would make it an extended off season and gain some weight. Being underweight doesn't help you. What does set duration matter to you? Time under tension is basically a proxy for effective hypertrophy training. In every hypertrophy training study that they've done, they've used between like 30 to 80% of 1 rep max, and that's where you get equivalent hypertrophy results if the sets are taken to the same proximity to failure. However, when you're doing sets of 5 to 6 on low amplitude movements, which means they have a low absolute range of motion, that might not be enough for you to accumulate enough time under tension to get optimal metabolite accumulation. Additionally, sets of 5 to 6 can sometimes be 82 to 87% of 1 rep max. And again, in low amplitude movements, I would speculate that that's not optimal for hypertrophy results. On some movements, I think it's better to have higher rep minimums. Should I take desensitization phases to prepare for further muscle growth? No, dude, because that's what a deload is. That's what a vacation is. That's what getting sick, really sick, and missing a week of training is. That's what getting injured and not being able to train is. And the vast, vast majority of normal people take at least 2 or 3 full weeks off every year because of vacation and getting sick alone, sometimes more. So I usually, honestly, do not program these in for people ever. Question 2, do you think doing seated calf raises will help build up my soleus so that I do not get pain from rebounding out of the hole on squats? No, dude, just stop dive bombing your squats and stop doing them at really high intensities and weights. Back off the weight a little bit, back off the volume, and build back up until you're no longer having that tendon pain. Doing seated calf raises to train the soleus muscle is not going to help with tendon pain, at least not very much. So no, just do the right thing, lower the squat weight, and fix your form, and build back up slowly. All right, and now we're getting to the piss take questions from yesterday that I actually asked for. How to achieve the post-nut clarity-like state without actually fapping. What post-nut clarity, dude? After I bust a nut, I want to take a nap. I think if you want good ideas, traditionally the best place to have them is actually the shower. Where is the best place in the gym to hide and have sex? I want to fully utilize my pre-workout Viagra. Why would you hide? Real alphas don't hide. They just do it out in the open, preferably on the deadlift platform. And then if anybody has anything to say or if anybody starts watching, you just stare them dead in the eye without blinking to assert your dominance. Grunting and the use of chalk is not only encouraged, but preferred. How rare is the combination of naturally large breasts and a female body fat percentage between 15 to 20%? Why am I answering questions like this? A body fat percentage between 15 to 20% for females is 6-pack level. So that's like a fitness athlete. It's like a physique competitor, right? So, I mean, 14 to 15,000 Americans have 6-packs, which is roughly 1 in 25,000 people. And I would bet that most of those are men. But even if we say the pool there is something like 5,000 to 8,000 women have six packs in the US, you're basically trying to find Sasquatch or capture footage of a ghost. How's life? First of all, thanks for asking. I appreciate that. Life is good. So my partner Lacey was very sick recently, but she seems to be on the up and up. My puppies are happy and healthy. My family's happy and healthy. And I'm privileged and blessed enough to be able to lead a life where I get to chase after my goals every single day. So I have absolutely zero complaints. Absolutely nothing to complain about. Very, very grateful just to have the life that I have. I'd also like to say that I hope that you are doing just as well yourself and things are going your way. And that goes for everyone who follows along and participates in the Q&A on a regular basis. Thanks, everyone. If I do a training cycle with no leg drive, when I switch back to doing bench press with leg drive, will I bench more? Very high likelihood that you will. But here's the thing. A lot of you that are worrying about carryover, like you don't even bench 315 yet. Like you don't bench 140 kilos yet. Anything that you do to build muscle will have carryover. Like so many of you are so worried about picking the right thing to have carryover. Everything is going to have carryover. You're not anywhere near your potential yet. Now, will you set a PR the very first time you try leg drive again? Maybe not, but you very quickly will. Is it better to have process or outcome-oriented goals when it comes to lifting and life? You really can't have one without the other, because let's say you have 100% process orientation. Well, what is your process even about? Because unless there's something that you're trying to accomplish from an objective external point of view, you're just doing random. So are you just picking random things to get really good at? Like, why not be process oriented towards tying your shoelace? Because there's got to be something that you're trying to achieve, right? And it generally has to be pretty specific, or it makes evaluating your process's effectiveness really hard. For example, if you just say, I am a power lifter and I want to get better, what does that mean? Does that mean better technique? Does that mean total more? Does that mean have a higher DOTS formula score? Does that mean total more inside of the same weight class? Does that mean total more no matter what happens to your body weight? You have to have a specific goal too. Achieving a goal is like architecture. You need to know exactly what you're trying to build, and then you need to have a great blueprint to build it. But once you've gotten those blueprints approved and you know they're going to work to build exactly the building that you want to build, you need to focus on doing each step perfectly. Just lay the next brick perfectly. And if you focus on each step of building that building perfectly, which is process orientation, you will eventually get to your outcome of having a structurally sound, amazing building. But you can't have that process without first knowing what the goal is and having a plan to achieve that goal. And second, you can't know if somehow the process has gone wrong if you're not evaluating your process against how you're actually achieving that goal. You need both to get optimal outcomes. All right, everybody, that's the end of the video. So you know what to do. Like the video if you like the video. Questions and comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Look at this picture of Kona catching a mouse, and have a nice day.